Hi, and welcome to Annette Beckham Official. I am Annette Beckham. I'm an author and a frequency translator, and thank you so much for joining me. So, we're going to be talking today about the frequency of truth. So, what is that to you? What does that mean to you? And most importantly, one of the things that I will be talking about today, because the frequency of truth is the title, this is still so surreal saying this, is the title of my new book, The Frequency of Truth, which I have spent years working through. So from somebody who, as I said, as a kid was, as a child, was working through, as I said, sitting outside in the playground, talking to the roses, rather than going and playing games. Somebody who throughout my whole life has been through trauma, who's been through manipulation, who's been through, like many, many, many of us. But then there's always been that extra layer, that extra sensitivity, that extra layer of knowing. So I'd like to talk to you today about something, as I said, I spent years figuring out. I've put down here on my own, but I have had and continue to do so some amazing mentors and teachers and some incredible people in their own field, because this book also does go into some of the science behind it. And now, being neurodiverse myself, I'm not a great reader. So again, with this book, I hope it's in a way that I've laid it out where there's not like huge chunks of text. It's a bit more of an easy read. But because some of the science now, so the epigenetics, so many others are finding out things that we've only just began to understand. But I'm hoping in the frequency of truth that this provides just a little bit of a different lens. So this isn't to tell you who you are, what to do, when to do it. But hopefully we'll give it language. Hopefully to start giving that sensitivity a little bit more language, because I know it did me. So if you've always felt something more deeply than the people around you, if you've had experiences you couldn't quite explain, and maybe stop trying to explain them because nobody seemed to get it. If you've done the therapy, you've done the healing work, you've regulated your nervous system, and you've reframed your beliefs, maybe something still doesn't feel right. Is that you? I know it was me. I spent many years believing that if I could just understand my sensitivity, I could manage it. If I processed enough, healed enough, I could finally feel normal. And here's what I found. Psychology explained my past, and having that level of therapy and help really help unpick things. But it still didn't explain what I was perceiving in the moment. It didn't explain why certain places made me feel things my mind couldn't really account for. It didn't explain the knowing that arrived before the logic. And it didn't explain why some people's energy could floor me, but yet others lifted. You had that? What I needed wasn't more healing. What I needed was language. Because again, I'm not meaning to hyper on the fact of kind of like the neurodiverseness, but within this time and day and age, that is obviously, again, language that we're currently using to explain the experiences and the nature in which we find ourselves in. Because, I mean, I've known people and within their 40s and 50s who are going, got it. And no, it's not just another label, because we'll come on to labels in a minute. So what is this book then? The Frequency of Truth. It's not another spiritual self-help book. It's not a doctrine. It's not saying this is you, this is what you have to do. It's not telling you who you are or what you are. No. Who am I to tell you who you are? You are you. You are this amazing being. You are this amazing package of consciousness, which we'll get onto in a bit. It's a framework, a set of lenses, if you like, that help me. And certainly the people I've been working with over the past few years, to finally understand what we're actually doing day to day. And here's the thing about the word frequency. Do you find that frequency, vibration, spiritual beings just get, or to me, it seems as though they just kind of get thrown around? And I don't mean that negatively, because the fact that we're using this type of language and terminology is absolutely fantastic. Because when I first picked up my first pendulum when I was 12, the idea of picking up on other energies and stuff was like, whoa, not too sure about that one. Even though there's been amazing dowsers in that for centuries. So here's the thing. Raise your vibration. High vibes only. Heard all those, right? Nothing wrong with that at all. I am not here to say what is right and what is wrong. As I said, this is a different perspective. But what does it actually mean? So within this book and within the work that I've been doing, the way that I see it is that the human body, so think of it as a radio. And for some of those who were using radios before the digital radio came in, excuse me, where you had like this big box, or that's it. My grandparents or great grandparents used to call it a wireless. Not a radio, a wireless. A radio, and it had like the great big, I'm gonna say the great big knob on the front, but that sounds even worse. The big turn, the big, I don't know, what would you call it? I'm gonna get myself into a bit of trouble here. The big knob on the front they used to turn to pick up all the different radio signals. So yeah, well, I've even put on my notes here the big dial at the front. I think that word is a little better, isn't it? The big dial rather than the big knob. But anyway, I digress. Moving swiftly on. You're not creating the signal. You're tuning into it. All the things we do, the breath work, the nervous system regulation, being in nature, being mindful, being conscious, being what we eat, what we drink, what we surround ourselves in. That's not spiritual performance. That's fine-tuning the receiver. Because a body that's sitting in that fight or flight where you're, and again, been there, done that. And yeah, we all still have our off day, on and off days, absolutely. Where you're sitting in that fearful state. How much of a signal are you going to get if you're sort of tightened, as it were? And here's what nobody tells us. You ready for this one? You're not just tuned into one frequency. You're a blend. It's like saying that there's only one instrument in a full orchestra. That there's only violins. You're a blend. You carry multiple signatures, karmic patterns, astral memory woven into your biology. Current activations that are coming online right now on what I call a mission frequency, the contribution your soul appears orientated towards in this lifetime. Again, there's a lot of words to unpack there, isn't there? So let's simplify it a little bit. So the body isn't just a container of consciousness. It is consciousness. Taken into form, made solid, landed here in this life, in this moment, but made of the same stuff everything else in the field is. So you are that singularity, and I really hope I'm using that word correctly. Kind of like that ball of consciousness, if you like. So this book, Frequency of Truth, exploring consciousness, coherence, and the hidden architecture of the multidimensional human, is the science as well. And again, I'll be the first one to say I have not necessarily read every single book, every single paper, every single on these subjects. But what I have is hopefully kind of digested in such a way that will land well. So epigenetics, the heart's electromagnetic field, the observer effect, DNA as a fractal antenna. My lived experience. Because I'm not asking you to take any of this on as faith. Not at all. I'm showing you how I arrived with this through my own body, through years of direct experience and the integration, because none of this is useful if it stays as theory. See, there's some like scientists and people who can talk and talk and talk. And I tell you what, some of the people that I mention in here, and a few of their names I do find a little bit difficult to pronounce, is theory. They've looked at data, they've looked at experiments, which is mind-blowing. But what does that actually mean in real life? There is a whole chapter on the multidimensional blueprint. Some might call it the multidimensional architecture. I'm reading my own notes before I'm going through them. So, architecture of who you are at a level that predates this lifetime. There's a chapter on the heart, which I believe is the primary vortex, not necessarily just the pineal gland, this heart that sends out electromagnetic waves beyond the physical. Surely that's got a huge game to play, or part to play even. Because I know through my own experience that everyone kept on saying about the pineal gland, and I'm going, huh? Yeah, okay, that to me that had a function, but everything I felt was here. Always has been. And again, this is what this research and this lens kind of gave me some of the answers too. There's also a chapter on star lineages and frequency signatures. And importantly, and I will stress this bit slightly, labels. And I think the fact that we use words like star lineages, star seeds, Lemurians, Arcturians, all of these is absolutely incredible. But we do need to be aware of why labels can be limiting rather than liberating. There's a whole section on discernment, on coherence, on what is actually meant to live this rather than just understand it. So living with that, with the idea of expansion, living with the idea of what coherence and what that means. And right at the beginning, I mentioned about language because to me it's really, really important. And throughout all of this, I started to put together my own dictionary, glossary, notebook of words and what they meant. Because somewhere I would read about one thing and then listen to a podcast which I thought was about the same thing but wasn't quite. So at the back is a glossary, because I know how many words get thrown around in these spaces, and I put on here, you deserve to know exactly what I mean when I use them. And I think that's important, not necessarily that you deserve. I don't know quite why I wrote that. Again, bearing in mind being very cautious about language, but to be very precise, if I could say that word, being very precise on when I'm referring to certain things and then what my understanding of that is. Which I think, I hope that it's kind of like the general understanding with most things, but and again, for those who maybe are slightly neurodiverse, it's kind of, to me, I find that one of the biggest helps when reading, that you don't have to keep on going to a dictionary and keep on going, what's this, what's that, what's this. So this book is not about becoming something new. It's about what keeps persisting. This isn't about finally finding your spiritual path. It's about having language for what's always been there and having maybe a slightly better understanding of how to work with it. How to fine-tune that radio just a little bit better. And you know what? Sometimes if that radio isn't, as you get up one day and it isn't as finely tuned as the day before, then that's okay too. Because one thing this also, which was the most fascinating part for me as well, is that I've spent a long time working with earth energies through my dowsing. But then all of a sudden being sort of pulled up into the cosmic, into the consciousness, it's all the same. So it's having that connection between the unified field that we sit in. So those frequencies that Gaia, Tara, Earth is giving, is sending, tuning into those, tuning in to the ones above as well. There's a whole section on there, because if you read my previous blogs, which is on my Substack, which all the information is underneath, by the way, and the links to the Amazon page where you can go and purchase the book, links to my website below, alarianresonance.com, and all that fun stuff. Again, all the links are underneath. And yeah, you can get, I think it's Amazon, it's on all the different Amazons, but I've just put the links underneath. Because a part of obviously that regulation is grounding as well, which I always tell myself off for. So it's connecting with that earth energy. Because at the end of the day, it's about remembering. It really is about remembering what to do, how to do. The self that was never broken. Oh, still makes me tear up when I read that. Just responding to more input than you were taught to interpret. Whether you've always been able to pick up on more than you could interpret, or whether you're just finding out that you can do that now. Hopefully this will give you a lens to help with that. If any of this has landed for you, if you heard something in here that felt like recognition rather than information, then this book was written for you. This book was written for you. As I said, it's a lens. It's the way I started to understand things. And you know what? The language is going to expand. The knowledge is going to expand. The connections are going to expand. Or evolve. That's a better word. Evolve. Because I can say with my own, to coin a phrase, journey, even when I started this work about 5-6 years ago, or looking into resonance, frequencies, coherence, consciousness, as I said, I understood a lot of this when I was very young. But as I said, the actual, everything that's gone into this is over that period. It's blown my mind. And even in the past week, there's been even further developments, which I cannot wait to share with you. I really, really can't. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for liking and sharing and subscribing and all that fun stuff. And yeah, as I said, alarianresonance.com is my website. The book, The Frequency of Truth, the link is in the description below. You may have to just put my name in, Annette Beckham, in the search bar, because the algorithms and stuff may not have caught up yet, but the link and everything should work underneath. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. There's going to be weekly updates. There's going to be weekly videos from now on, and there's going to be a few card pull videos, and yeah, just a few other. Now I've got my head out of my laptop. Yeah, hopefully see me more and more on here, but and I'll give more information about the book as it progresses. But you were never broken. That heart of yours is way more powerful. Go and have a read in the book. It's all in there. Anyway, from my heart to yours. Bye bye.